Okay, so on this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to put a spotlight on a few different members who've been crushing it through June, July, basically this summer, at different stages of journeys. So some are en route to checkpoint, some have recently hit checkpoint in consolidation, and some are deep in investment. So we're going to put a spotlight on them, discuss some of the strategies that they are using right now to help them continue to get results despite life being in the way, despite all the different responsibilities that they're managing, and show some like case study type examples of what's possible when you have the right systems and strategies in place. So we're going to start off by putting the spotlight on a couple of members who are close to hitting checkpoint. And the first one up for discussion is Vishwa out in New Jersey, who is en route to checkpoint and is doing really, really well. So Ivan, do you want to give a kick off with a little bit of background on where she's at? And then we can kind of some specific strategies that's working well for her at the moment.
So Vishwa's just done really well. She's coming up to the end of her process phase now. This is just over a year it's taken her to get here, which has been fantastic. So a lot of the stuff that she has learned along the physical changes she's made have been quite crazy when you actually look at the pictures and whatnot, how far she's come. But more importantly, just her mindset and her behaviors. Those are the things, in my opinion, that have come such a long way since I started working with her, which has been really, really good to see. And, I'm always talking about how these habits and behaviors that I see during that process phase, the people that can implement this stuff now are the ones who are going to have success over the long term. So in my opinion, the biggest change for her has definitely been on the mindset front. And, even though she's like really grinding hard, she's on low calories, she's got a vacation coming up in like 3-day vacation, she's still handling it like a boss. She's still approaching it with confidence. She's not scared, if that makes sense. Like she's going in knowing exactly what she needs to do, what food she's going to select, what are going to be the best options, how she's planning things. And even just the last couple of months, the way that she's just been handling socials and what was once just I had no control, I couldn't do this, or someone told me this, someone told me that. She's really kicked all those excuses out. And she's just been like, no, I'll just come in, I do what I need to do. I establish my expectations with people. I'll be quite upfront, she's quite abrupt, which I like. I think that's why we get along quite well. And she's just, got a lot of confidence now in saying no, in doing what she needs to do, and understanding that her goals here are far more important than like momentary desires on the lips, if that makes sense, So she's really just come a long way on that front. She's very, very socially active. She's got a busy life. She's got a lot of responsibilities, and the fact that she's, been able to get to where she is now. And more importantly, once she's hit checkpoint, she's very, very keen on, the long-term game and investing in her physique and, building a better physique, toning her physique over the long term. So she's already pumped about what's to come. But I just wanted to give a big shout out to her because it's been a long time. She's always saying I should have hit checkpoint months ago. But I say better late than never. And the way that she's done it, I think has been in a really, really good way. So her story's been very inspiring. I can't wait to actually put it out for more people to see. But for now, she's doing it.
So what's exactly specifically changed from a mindset perspective that's allowed her to have those expectations laid out up front, be able to say no more? What and also kick to the curb those excuses. What's changed from a mindset perspective, and what was like the flip the switch moment for her in that respect?
It was just, it was just more like the ongoing stuff that we're talking about week on week. I know early on she would give reasons as to why she couldn't do something and this and that. But we'd always have a conversation about how we could have approached things differently, how there's always a good option, how there's always a good choice, how you are always 100% in control over what you consume, And it was just her and I going back and forth on this for like a long time until it did finally click. And, just recently she's even said the same thing to me. She goes, I know you've said this to me like multiple times, but it just clicked. It just clicked one couple months ago, and she's just been rolling with that ever since, And, I'm a big believer in that this stuff takes a long time to really change and to really click. And I think what we do really well here is that we keep our members accountable and we give them guidance on how to approach these type of things. And sometimes it is repeating the same thing over and over again and making sure that, well, can we say it in a different way? Can we try different strategies to achieve that sort of outcome? And I think it just literally happened with repetition. And then she just finally realized that all the stuff that she was saying was just nonsense. Like, you always have control over what you consume. You always have a good decision you can make regardless of where you are. And I think she's really embodied that, and she's been able to take that advice. In my opinion, I think that's been the biggest killer, or that's been the biggest nail in the coffin for her, was because I know she's very social. She goes out quite a bit. And I think she always fell victim to her circumstances, whereas now she owns her circumstances, and she still will, go out, plan ahead, make sure that, there's something good on the menu. And if not, she'll protein preload. She'll just put strategies in place to help her navigate these situations more effectively. And it's just been great, So.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, she signed up to year 2, and she's also coming to the New York retreat that we're doing in October as well. So yeah, she's all in, and I love it. Yeah. But on that topic of mindset, maybe like Ed, we can go back and forth on this. Is like, where have you seen like people sort of fall victim to that sort of mindset struggle? Because a lot of going through a physical journey like we have at RNT is effectively having it right in your mind before you can execute it in the real world. Where are people falling trapped to? You're seeing more and more at the moment, and where are we needing to like put in specific sort of safeguards to make sure that they aren't letting that turn into completely off track?
I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is where you see RNT or this process fitting into your life, or if you view it as a new way of life or a little add-on. So the new hobby I'm doing, the new course that I'm doing or I've signed up to, whatever it is, this is what I do on a Monday and Wednesday, or I have my check-in on a Sunday night, whatever it is. I'll do that, and then I live the rest of my life as I was. And I think day one, or hopefully before then, but you get a pretty rude awakening. That's not how you can really do it. And the members who are absolutely crushing it at the moment are the ones who've just gone all in across the whole lifestyle and thrown themselves in and been willing to make changes just across the board. Now, it doesn't mean you can change every aspect of your life, because you can't quit your job. You're not going to put your kids up to the orphanage or whatever. But it's realizing that how you do everything is
quite an extreme example.
It's going to be, but all of these aspects are going to be touched by this.
Yeah.
You're going to have to change things. And like two other people I'd love to shout is Kimberley and Jay, who have both got shoots within max 2 months, but I think probably around the 6-week mark at the moment, who have absolutely killed it this year. And both the biggest thing they've both got in common, like one's in the UK, one's across in the States, like lives are completely different. But one thing they've got really in common is that they've just gone all in, and they've just soaked up everything from RNT. Like they've jumped on coaching calls, they're asking questions, not just about like, hey, how do I manage this? But, Jay's posting questions about, in consolidation, like asking questions around there, in investment, when I'm looking to build muscle, like really just trying to soak it up. And this is a common characteristic across people for all the time I've been at RNT who've really smashed it. But they've really seen day one of RNT as a new way of life, rather than just, all right, I'm just going to do this course for X amount of months with my life running along the side. And it just doesn't really work like that. And it's not to say it has to take over your life, but it has to bleed into all areas, not only just to get the most out of it, but even just to get like the basics that you want to get from it.
And with both of them, what I've noticed is they both mentioned quite consistently around how they want to change their identity, how they want to become new people through this process, and how this is like a vehicle to, they want to shed the physical weight, but they really want to take who they are and who they see themselves in the mirror to another level. And also I think their family is a big part of driving that as well. They want to be seen as like a role model. I know for Jay especially, he wants to be seen like a superhero to his kids. Because before he was overweight, and he felt that around his kids, and his kids used to comment on it. So it's been a big part of it. And Jay actually, I think he secured his second year 6 months in advance. So 6 months into the journey, he's like, look, I know this is a long-term journey. And I asked him actually, like, what made you want to take the step to the next year so early into your journey? And he said, I just know this is going to take a long time. Like I've lost 35 kilos, something like that already. I think he's at a kilo a week, you said to me the other day, Ed. The averaging
at the moment it literally is. He's in robot mode, and it's not like life has chilled out for him to do this. Like he's a busy guy. Like he's got work and family stuff going on a lot, fitting in, but he makes it work every week. And he's basically like clockwork, kilo off a week at the moment.
Well, so you dropped 30 kilos. Like managing that, and we're going to come on to that shortly, is a massive task in itself. And I think because he's studied all the materials around what we do throughout the 5 phases, he's aware that if he drops those 30, 40 kilos, is whatever it's going to end up being, he can't just be left to his own devices, because death by 1,000 cuts will take him right back to the beginning unless he crystallizes that identity change. So it kind of segues nicely into consolidation. And some of these people that we've mentioned, Vishwa, Kimberley, and Jay, let's pretend we're speaking to them directly right now. It's going to be quite a cool little exercise. If we're speaking to them right now, hopefully they listen to this. It's not falling on deaf ears. But we're speaking to them right now. Anyone who is en route to that checkpoint now, what do they need to hear directly from us to maximize their consolidation phase and not feel scared of it, not feel like they're struggling through this? Because there's always this perception that it needs to be a hard struggle. Yeah, of course it's going to be hard, but does it need to be a failure? Absolutely not. So if we're speaking to them directly right now, what are we telling them that they need to be ready for? And then what are they actually going to go through as we get into phase 3?
Don't be afraid of the scale coming up a little bit. Like if you push your checkpoint really, really hard and you get as lean as, we think that you should, then the scale coming up a little bit post checkpoint is completely normal and completely fine. And the reason for this is because for most people, when they get to that level, it's not a sustainable place to be. You may look your best, and we congratulate the effort to get there. And I think everyone should do it just to see what they are made of, which I think it was going to carry over to everything else they do later on. But to actually live there and think that you can sustain that is just not realistic nor healthy. And it's not something that we promote. Okay. So the first thing that they have to realize is that, putting on a little bit of weight is going to be okay. Okay. And the thing is, this bit of weight is not going to be a ton of fat. It's literally just going to be more food in your system, more, glycogen, but you don't have to know what that is. But it's just a little bit of extra food in your system floating around. Okay. But some body fat also does have to come on eventually. Okay. Because this is going to make you feel good. It's going to allow you to then consolidate well, because remember, the whole point of consolidation is to actually get your health in a really, really good spot. Okay. And to do that, some of that weight does have to come up in a controlled fashion. Okay. And to do that, this is where staying accountable to your coach. Some other things that I recommend is not changing up your meal plan crazy when you come out of that. In my opinion, what you should be doing, and this is what most people should be focusing on, is having more of the same foods that they have been eating, just more of it. Foods that digest well. All the other stuff can come later, and that it's going to come. It's your investment phase is almost around the corner. But I highly recommend not just, digging yourself into these highly palatable foods, trying to fit in all this crazy stuff because you just hit checkpoint. In my opinion, I think that's a really, really wrong way to go, because you can really do a number on your taste buds, on your cravings, and that can just really go mental. And, we've all done it, right? We've all pushed the envelope, got really, really lean. And if that phase isn't really controlled appropriately and you just start reintroducing these hyper palatable foods, it's a really, really rocky road. I know, AV.
This is so 2 days ago, was my anniversary for my extreme binging experience that I had in 2014. I won my bodybuilding show. It was 11 years ago yesterday. So I was looking at some pictures from there, because on iPhone or in photo gallery you can just skip to it. So I typed in July 2014, right? And then for those who are watching this live, I saw this picture. This was when I used to use Snapchat. Remember Snapchat? Yeah. I think it's still a thing, but this is when you're a kid, right? And I had this I think my sister must have taken this, and it's a picture of me the morning after. It says me tucking into Nutella, biscuits and tea. Yeah. And then my sisters wrote champion. She's really proud of me. And there I am stuffing my face with a box of that whole box is open there, right there. And I'm like
a ravenous dog, right? Because it's
my grandma sent them to me from Leicester up north, and she makes them homemade. She's like, oh yeah, Akash loves these. Send them over to him so he can eat them after his show. And they were gone the next day. Yeah. And that was the day after the show. The night of the show was just as bad. It was quite interesting when you said that. I was thinking, the hyperpalatable foods just
because
you're crazy.
Yeah, your taste buds are just so sensitive at that point as well. Yeah. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to keep the foods relatively bland and then build your way back out once your body weight is in a healthy spot. I still recommend going out for your family with a meal. Have a congratulatory. Sorry, it's late here. Have a celebration meal with the post checkpoint, right? But then from there, I get back on plan. You will have your consolidation plan straight after anyway. Everyone that works with us knows exactly what they're doing the following day after checkpoint. So my best advice is to simply follow that, keep the diet relatively the same, and just have more foods, more of the same stuff. And then trust me, other stuff will be introduced later on. It's not going to take long if you do it properly. You'll feel better, you'll feel healthier. And even at that point, let's be honest, just having a bit more rice and having a bit more potato, you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah.
Right. Well, what's funny is in that picture I just showed you, I didn't have a plan. And I think that was probably one of the biggest mistakes. First, I got rid of all of my accountability. I had a coach for that period who helped me to the winning the show, but I said, I'm cool now.
Yeah.
And I had no plan afterwards. So that, I think that was, and I stopped weighing myself. All these things start kicking in. So I lost all my accountability mechanisms, and I had no plan. It's a recipe for disaster. I think what our members can benefit from is all those mistakes. I also think, I know you said earlier around they don't need to know the sciencey bits of it around the glycogen. I think it can actually help sometimes just understand what's actually going on when you are in that sort of deprived state. Because my favorite diagram is the fat cell diagram. Everyone's seen that fat cell diagram, right? Yeah. But I think it really demonstrates very clearly. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's one where you've seen it's like little bubbles, big bubbles, all accumulate together, and then they all shrink. And then you see the next diagram, which has more bubbles than the middle one. I think that's how it's presented. But the key concept is fat cells only shrink; they don't disappear. But at the point of checkpoint, they're ready to be filled up, right? They want to be, all your hormones in your body are saying, yeah, just eat. And that's where the struggle comes in, right? So you've got this physiological forces of, leptin, which is your hunger hormone. You've got, and then you've got the psychological forces of just this uncaged animal, like you said, right? And I think if you go in understanding that you've got psychology and physiology working against you for a short period of time, 4 to 8 weeks, then you can come out the other side in a much better place. But I think if you go in a bit blinded, or you go in thinking this is just going to be hell, then I think that's when it goes really bad.
Yeah, exactly. And just on the whole fat cell thing, remember, in that position, yes, your body's also going to soak up glycogen and carbs in the muscle, which is a good thing, but you're also going to be putting on some fat. It has to happen. And this is why it has to be done in a controlled way coming out of there, So this doesn't mean going super slow or reverse dieting for 6 months. Doesn't mean that at all. But, having a decent bump back up to theoretical maintenance for that individual, and we'll calculate that for them. Getting up to that ASAP and just doing it in a controlled way, I think, is just one of the best ways for someone to get off to a really, really good start in consolidation. And continue doing all the stuff, continue tracking your weight, and understanding that not freaking out when you see the scale weight go up. I think you have to reframe the whole thing and go, it's okay seeing the scale weight come up. It's a good thing in that scenario. It doesn't have to come. It's not going to come up uncontrollably if you just lose your stuff completely. Okay, but it should tick up slowly, and you should start feeling better and better and better. You will notice energy improvements across the board, all this good stuff. And sometimes we see people they don't really start gaining weight until maybe a week later, 2 weeks later. Everyone's going to be different, but the main things that we look out for as coaches is health, making sure that I'm really paying attention to subjective markers, so libido, mood, energy, all that, satiety, all that stuff. We have a scoring system, and one of the benchmarks we use to know that, okay, cool, someone is done with consolidation is having 2 weeks straight of scoring these metrics at least a 4 out of 5. Ideally, I want to see 5 out of 5, to be honest. But I'll also gauge that in how the client is responding as well. So I don't want people to lie about it. That's the worst thing that people can do, is just I'm fine, let's just move on to investment. It's chill, let's just take our time here, So sometimes it can take 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, but it doesn't have to be this crazy ongoing long thing. And in that time, the client also knows exactly where they're going, the next journey, the next part of their journey, what's to come, and they should be pumped for it. They should be pumped for the investment phase coming out of such a hard diet as well.
So Ed, when you see people struggling in consolidation, what is typically going on, and why does it happen?
I think the two most common struggles I see is, number one, thinking that you've hit checkpoint, and then the day after you now need to be living your lifestyle solution, or what we'd call jumping from phase 3, which is consolidation, trying to go straight as soon as you enter that into your reward phase, which is basically the ultimate goal, where you're just living in the body you want in a really sustainable way. You've got the freedom you want, that health, performance, lifestyle, work, all of that balance is in a good spot. And the reality is that isn't going to come the day after your checkpoint. It's not going to come the day after that. It's probably not even going to come in the months after that. You're probably, this is a multi-year journey to try and get that. But trying to fast forward that process, I think this leads people just to remove all of the non-negotiables and the building blocks they had to get them to that initial place. and then they just end up in this weird grey area where they don't really have control over anything. So I think like the most common form I see that taking is with nutrition, where you've done a very structured approach during your fat loss phase, especially that last period when you're grinding just before you hit checkpoint. You're going to be on meal plans, for most people in that grind period, 1 to 2 meal plans probably for those last few weeks. So it's very structured, and that isn't a way to live for the rest of your life for most people. However, jumping from one end of the spectrum there to everything untracked, or even if it's not that extreme, but you know what, now I'm just do fully untracked weekends. It's like, okay, that may be how you want to be in the end, but trying to jump from A all the way to Z and just skipping out everything else in the middle, you just haven't got the skills for that. And the reality is when you get to checkpoint, you've achieved something really good, but you only know 2 things. You know how to be out of shape. You knew that before you joined RNT. And then now you know a way of getting into shape. That's all you know, right? And that's good. It's better than where you were before. But you still don't know how to stay in shape or how to actually develop from there. Like that's completely, it's like finishing primary school and thinking you're ready for uni. It's like, no, you've missed you still got a load more work.
That's a good analogy, that. That's a good analogy.
And, that can take different people different amounts of time, but it's going to take some time to get there. And so really being in a rush, and I can understand why, because you probably felt a level of restriction, especially during that grind phase, and it's not meant to be sustainable that last period. So you're like, you know what, once this is over, I'm getting back to just really sustainable, the life I want. But if you jump, as I said, from A to Z, there's just so much you're missing. All that's going to happen is you're going to go crazy at the weekends, feel terrible come Monday. At best, you stick to the plan Monday to Friday and you just have terrible weekends. What's more likely to happen is you go into Monday with so much guilt and worry, you pull back and restrict, and then you get yourself into this horrible cycle. Next thing you know, you're 3 months into consolidation. You're either still at the same body weight from hacking the system, but you've got a terrible relationship with food, you feel awful, your health is in a bad spot. Or you can have all of those bad things, but also have gained a load of the weight back as well because of you're just going into these binges. And this is where you can have some of the negatives of being in a deficit while also still being in a surplus. Like a lot of the negatives that can happen depends how hard you push in a fat loss phase, such as, like, say, menstrual cycle dysregulation. You can still have that in a surplus if the body is under loads of stress. And I've seen people who haven't consolidated well, who still have an irregular cycle, but they've gained 5-6 kilos, and that's all because they've just not actually managed that period well, or communicated well. So that'd be the first one around trying to just jump straight from checkpoint to lifestyle solution. And then the other one, I think, is just this overwhelming just fear, basically. And this is something that I think is actually relatively new, in that I think when maybe 6 years ago, I think a lot of people were approaching consolidation thinking, oh yeah, you guys are just banging on about consolidation, don't worry, I've got this, and like not giving it the respect it deserves. Now, maybe because we've pushed it so much, I don't know that the pendulum swung a little bit. Now I see more people going in so worried about it that it's like they're so worried they'll put a foot wrong that suddenly they're going to look like their first photo when they first started. And it's not to say there's not challenges you guys have touched on, but you just need to keep doing what you're doing. And as long as you just keep doing that, keep communicating with your coach, it's like, oh, I've got a meal out. Okay, well, you probably had a meal out in your process phase, especially by the end of that process phase. You're probably dealing with that fine, right? Yep. It's no different now. All it is the meals across the rest of the day, you have a bit more of rice on your plate, you've got a bit more potato on your plate, whatever it is. So I think it's probably 2 ends of the spectrum. It's either forcing it or just really trying to just stay back where you are the whole time.
This is where on that last one you mentioned, this is where this probably happens a lot because there's no goal, so to speak. Whereas before it was like you go have a meal out, but you feel like you're part of some sort of structured meal out because you've got this big goal. Mm-hmm. And this is where those who have performance interests or hobbies outside of, we just, I guess, enjoy training. We've seen good strong correlations between those who enjoy training and those who consolidate well. And this doesn't mean you need to be entering races and stuff like that. It's more just having an enjoyment of training, I think, can really help in that period post checkpoint, because you have extra fuel and suddenly you're feeling stronger, you're performing better in the gym. Also, it just takes your mind off like food or physique being the only thing. And I think that we've seen a lot of correlations in that. And Kimberley actually is a good example of someone who she hasn't hit checkpoint yet, but she's always doing something from a
she's
performance.
Training for a marathon.
Oh, there you go. She's saying always think when's our marathon.
So I think I was chatting to her on a coaching call maybe last week, and we're saying it should work really nicely in that when she hits checkpoint, it'll be fairly early on. So I think she might be around half marathon distance when she hits checkpoint, so that she'll then have some more fuel. I know her actual coach will know the specifics better than me on that, but yeah, it timed quite nicely because it's not something we'd ideally pair up, but the way the timelines have matched, she should be in a great spot to really kick on as the training kicks up with some more food as well.
Yeah, and that puts you in a good like focus point to give yourself like some sort of like guiding light when you need to make that effectively the mindset, identity, behavioral change that needs to happen in order to keep the weight off long term while it's feeling easy.
You're moving towards the body you want versus running away from the one you hate. You know,
exactly
that whole
So. And you're giving yourself time to let that identity shift happen without worrying about your physique and your food, because your mind is thinking about the marathon as an example, or whatever the physical goal is.
But it feeds into it as well, because to run a good marathon, like, it helps to be on the leaner side. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that will already act as like a motivator to be like, yeah, cool, I'm not going to eat like an idiot or eat like an asshole. I'm still going to manage my food. But yeah, you're going to be fueling for performance, and you're going to be fueling for recovery. And yeah, it's just a completely different mindset, you know, versus trying to, if the only reason that you're eating well is to manage your weight, like that's where I see people who really, really struggle over the long term. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just saying, if you're going to do that, it just helps having something else on the side to really drive you internally and to keep you on the course and keep you moving towards something. And you know, you can discuss that with your coach. You guys can come up with a solution. Again, you don't have to run some crazy race if you don't want to, but finding something that you really like and that you get a lot of joy out of progressing or just doing on a day-to-day basis, I think is a very underrated tool for long-term maintenance for sure.
Yeah, especially because the identity change takes so long. Because it takes long, it kind of keeps you moving along at different checkpoints until you hit it. And then once you get there, then you probably don't need as many goals or guiding lights. So you probably just do it for fun. But until then it really helps keep the focus on. Like, and then it kind of shifts nicely onto some investor spotlights that we can share. I think, Ivan, you were sharing Neil and Serena recently climbed Kili.
Yeah.
Is it Kili, is it? Climbed Kili. Yeah. And that's been a big focus of their, especially for Neil, and he's more in an investment phase. It's been a big part of his investment phase. Yeah. And again, it allows him to keep that North Star. So maybe talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So they recently just got back. Serena is still in her process phase, but yeah, Neil has been investing well for over a year now. He's done exceptionally well. He's very adamant with his check-ins week on week. He's pretty much got his like nutrition down packed, which has been excellent. The biggest thing that I found with him, because I remember when he first came, like he used to really struggle with socials. He used to really struggle going on holiday and just coming back like really heavy, because he had the mindset of like, if I'm going to a all-inclusive, I want to get my money's worth. You know, that type of attitude. But I think he's starting to realize that, you know, getting your money's worth is actually going to the venue and just feeling good. You know what I mean? Feeling good day to day versus feeling like a beached whale. You know what I mean? So that has been like a big mindset shift for him with regards to like eating out and holidays and even like drinking. I think he's cut back down on that massively, you know. So he's made a lot of headway on the nutritional side of things. But, you know, when I really think about it, I think a lot of that has also come from him just wanting to get fitter, get stronger. He's always sending me training videos. He's always sending me screenshots of his runs. And yeah, he had that goal of being able to climb Kili in like a really good time and to actually do it comfortably, you know? So he had that as like...
Well, they time it.
I'm not too sure. I believe he did. I don't have his actual stats, but I do remember him being very, very impressed with how he did it. You know, they just the RPE of it, if that makes sense. You know, so and they both knew that that definitely wouldn't have been the case like a year ago, 2 years ago, and whatnot. So and yeah, just seeing how well he's developed from a training perspective. He's always taking feedback on well. He's always wanting to get better, wanting to improve. I roast him a lot. I know he won't mind me saying that, but he takes the feedback on well and he implements it, you know, and he tries to get better. And like he's just come such a long way. And I think that's having that, sort of side goal, like a side quest of Kilimanjaro, I think it's just allowed him to, you know, get to the gym more, do his cardio, make sure he's aerobically fit, make sure he's strong enough, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it was, it was just a really good guiding light, you know, when I think about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, nice. We've got one more investor shout out and kind of does a bit different to Neil.
I think the one I'd shout is probably Stella, who is really, I would say, had like a transformational, probably last 6 months. And I don't think she'd probably mind sharing, because I know she shared it in a lot of the coaching calls before. But I mean, she had an absolute killer checkpoint. So look, from day one to go in unreal shape for her checkpoint, absolutely crushed it. Was actually in the same challenge group as Neil, so they kind of hit checkpoint at similar times, so similar kind of timelines in terms of investment. And Stella actually fell into the trap of the kind of second avatar I said around the consolidation issues, of really just wanting to hold on to where she was at, which is understandable. She was looking like probably the best she'd looked in years, and was really happy with results, and rightly so. But really held on to that for as long as she could. But as we've said, and obviously we've been through it and made the mistakes ourselves, so we've learned through it the hard way. But she had to realize that she wasn't able to really hold that long term. One, from just like an energy and health perspective, because she is someone who really pushed it and got to like photo shoot level lean, but also just from a sustainability perspective around like, she's busy businesswoman, she's got social life. Like, there's only so long you can live like a robot for, and then holidays come in, and then death by 1,000 cuts starts to come in, and then you can end up in this no man's land of like, if I'm not, it's either all out kind of grind intensity, or you don't really know where you sit underneath that, how to do that. There's then obviously like the guilt that comes from that, and the annoyance of where's the progress coming. And so it hasn't been, I definitely wouldn't describe it as a disaster. I think she didn't make the progress through her initial investment phase as she would have liked to have done. But a massive switch has happened, and she is now in, like, mentally such a brilliant place with it. And I would say almost at the transformation for investment phase, although there hasn't been like the big visual change like pre-checkpoint, like mentally, and the impact that's going to have like long term for her is way, way bigger. And she's now just absolutely bossing it. Like, she's gone on like a few holidays. She got back from one the other day, just handling food. Just like sometimes I've just said like, that's how I do it. Like, and not saying that's like perfect, but I'm not going to advise anything kind of different to how I'd to that. She's training consistently and like, going hard in there. You can see in the training videos, like, she's absolutely killing it, and people looking around like, what the hell is this person doing? Which is probably a good sign if you're training in a commercial gym. She's, signing up for some stuff. I know with one of the members you're working with, Ivan Niddy, they're trying to do a couple of events together. So yeah, I think what she's done in terms of the lifestyle, but also setting herself up like long term, her relationship with food now, her control over her day, it's just been like absolutely massive. And that's what you want in the investment phase of like.
What do you think the thing has been? What do you think the switch has been? Like, if you were to try and like decode it, well, what's changed outside of maybe time?
It's still just, it's basically just turning up. Because the thing is, there was no, at least in my head, maybe she'll say differently, I don't think it was one big event, but it was one of those where, despite things not always going as she wanted, or not always like, seeing the progress she wanted, she just kept telling, like, she's probably one of the most consistent people on the coaching calls. She checks in every single week. She's always like really, really honest.
That's a good point there. You just mentioned there. So turning up with honesty.
Yeah, because I think in that there's honesty, and then there's like, you literally just really open up. And she's not afraid to do that, and that helps me so much as a coach.
But do you think that almost like when they are like just laying out on the table from their own side of things, they get that the transformation is happening as a result of it, because each week you're turning up, you're being raw, real, honest, and you're probably going to act differently as a result of it. Whereas if you were to like be half honest, you probably wouldn't be. You won't get the advice that you need to get advice, or the coaching that you need to get. But secondly, you won't have the accountability to yourself. Yeah. You can't keep being that raw with someone and then just like ignoring it, right? Yeah. It takes a lot to write that out, right?
Yeah. No, especially, like, go back the example you had of nailing the biscuits and Nutella. Like, you can say, oh, I overate last night. But if you say like when you're writing it out, that's like hitting you home. Yeah.
I had 17 biscuits like that.
Like it's hitting you as hard just pressing send as it is getting back. So no, I think that's been a massive part. And it's really admirable actually to combine that honesty, but then also just the consistency, because we all want that magic kind of word from us as a coach, or like the magic like slight like change. But you can do change in calories pre-checkpoint and then suddenly the rate of progress increases a little bit. Like that can kind of work, but post-checkpoint, you're just not going to get that. It's that identity shift change is just turn up every day, just doing it again. You mess up one day, you go again, and it's just not stopping. And yeah, I mean, that when I look back at my journey, I've made loads of mistakes, way more than Stella has, and way more than most of other people have. But I just kind of kept turning up and just still really wanted to just keep giving it another shot. And yeah, I
think that Stella example as well, you're probably like an element of like dropping the ego as well. Not saying that there was one, but everyone has that to an extent when they come to coaching. If you can drop anything you know about it and any ego you have around it, I think you're more likely to then be honest and then get the help that you need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'd say when I read her check-ins later, I'd never say that she's struggling from too much ego, from like trying to protect herself from that side.
That's great. That's awesome. Very happy to hear that.
Amazing. Well, I think that's a bit of a different pod, and we'll keep more of these coming. And that's it for today.